This league is so damn unprofessional, it's not even funny. You mean to tell me that you guys had fans paying for these like meet and greets or whatever it was, and you guys, some of y'all no-showed, just flat out no-showed. Some of y'all had the fans waiting in hours because you were coming hours and hours late because y'all was out with the stud buds getting drunk all night.
They don't think they need to go the extra mile. They don't even think they need to show up on time for fan meet and greet and autograph sessions, pretty much spitting in fans' faces. Fans who traveled maybe across the country to get that opportunity. Fans who maybe saved month after month after month after month to get enough money to buy a plane ticket, save enough money to get a train ticket, to get All-Star tickets, to get a hotel, to get an opportunity to meet and greet some of their favorite players. There was one player that showed up to these meet and greets on time. There was one player that wasn't out the night before grinding in the club. There was one player that actually does go above and beyond. There's one player that actually does put in the extra work. There's actually one player that clearly doesn't feel entitled to the fans she has. She understands she needs to work for those fans that she has. She needs to...
To be fair, there were a few players who showed up on time to everything. Caitlyn Clark, in particular, was very punctual for every obligation she had. She gave away her shoes, signed autographs, hugged fans, and competed hard in the All-Star game, where we bought 6 tickets at over $450 each. More than $2,700 for our family to be there, so nearly $3,000.
Chicago was supposed to deliver the ultimate fan experience during All-Star Weekend. This was the one weekend where paying fans, the folks who buy the jerseys, book the flights, and show up game after game, finally got close to the stars they cheer for. But for many of them, the trip home came with a different kind of story. And for a few of the WNBA's biggest names, it wasn't a good look at all.
I'm not saying you scamming the fans, but I'm like, yo, bro, people paying money, bro. Be more mindful of what people paying for, yo. Could have watched y'all do all this other BS that y'all was doing. It don't even make no sense. Y'all shooting air balls, y'all missing wide open layups. Like y'all literally showed that y'all didn't care.
The league had built up huge expectations. WNBA Live, presented by AWS, promised fans real FaceTime with players, real photo ops, real appearances all weekend long. But once people actually showed up, the story on the ground looked nothing like the promise online. And one complaint kept popping up everywhere. Fans paid good money to stand in a meet and greet line, phones ready, expecting a quick photo like the app promised. Then, right as they reached the front, they were told photos weren't happening after all. Not some quiet rule fans missed. A switch made right in front of them, after they'd already waited, already paid, already believed.
WNBA Live and waited in line over 2 hours to meet a couple of the top name athletes. They showed up 40 minutes late, signed autographs for 10 minutes, and left. This happened several times throughout the weekend. My children were in tears after waiting for hours only to be turned away. To be fair, there were a few players who showed up on time to everything. Caitlyn Clark, in particular, was punctual for every obligation she had. She gave away her shoes, signed autographs, hugged fans, and competed hard in the All-Star game, where we bought 6 tickets at over $450 each, more than $2,700 for our family to be there. She clearly understands that fans can make or break a career, and she came across as a genuinely good person. I was deeply disappointed in several of the other players showing up 40 minutes late and signing autographs.
Turns out, this whole mess didn't kick off with one bad headline at all. It was a bunch of small, annoying moments that fans slowly pieced together after comparing notes online. A signature signed in 2 seconds flat. A player walking right past fans without even a glance. A sponsor appearance that was supposed to run 30 minutes, but wrapped in barely 10. On their own, none of these moments seemed like a big deal.
All-Star is supposed to be a fan experience. You guys blew it, man. Y'all absolutely blew it. Chicago. I was just in downtown Chicago. Y'all saw me doing videos from a hotel room. I was in downtown Chicago for 4 or 5 days 3 weeks ago. And that wasn't All-Star weekend. And the hotels were expensive. I paid $1,500 for 3 days, I think. No, like 1,800 for 3 days. So I know they're at nearly $3,000. That's not including flights, hotels, Ubers, food, nothing. And this is how the fan got treated. Ain't this some shit? Pardon the language. Like, come on, man. I mean, this is messed up.
So here's the thing. Once these moments kept happening, weekend after weekend, city after city, with some of the league's most famous faces right in the middle of it, fans couldn't just brush it off anymore. It stopped looking like bad luck and started looking like a pattern. And that's exactly when one big question took over the conversation. Do these players genuinely care about the fans who show up and pay to support them? Or is All-Star Weekend nothing more than another item on their checklist before they can rush back home?
Of basketball is what the WNBA All-Star game was.
All-Star games, though.
They have to treat it a little more serious. The MNBA needs to treat the All-Star game differently if you want people to care, and the W needs to treat the All-Star game differently if you want people to care. It all stinks.
It set the record for attendance.
I know, and those
All-Star.
19,000 fans deserved better. My one takeaway was, wow, how cool was it to see 19,000 fans stack the United Center to watch WNBA All-Star, and then the game itself was an abomination of basketball. Even Caitlyn Clark during the game, while walking off with Holloway Rowe, they were doing like a little side-by-side. She said, let's play a little bit. Let's play. Come on, everybody, let's play.
No.
By no means is this the most important thing in the world. It's another All-Star game. But if you're gonna have the All-Star game, I don't understand why you don't actually.
Nobody expected a basketball weekend to turn into this big of a conversation, but here we are. What started as a few scattered complaints online has now snowballed into one of the biggest debates the league has seen in years, and it all comes down to one simple question. Do these players actually care about the fans who pay to watch them, or is this whole weekend just something they're rushing to get through? Let's be honest for a second. All-Star Weekend is genuinely draining. Players are jumping from skills challenges to three-point contests, sponsor events, media rounds, and then the actual game itself, all squeezed into about 3 days. Nobody's saying every player has to give unlimited time to every single fan. That's not realistic for anyone in any job. But there's a big difference between being tired and being completely checked out. And this year, fans said they could spot that difference the second a player walked up to them. Some described the exact same meet and greet booth, same day, same setup, feeling like a totally different experience depending on who showed up. One player would kneel down, look a kid in the eye, ask their name before signing anything. The next player wouldn't even glance up, already looking past the crowd for the closest exit. That's what got people talking, because if this were purely about being short on time, everyone would look equally rushed. Instead, it became obvious that some players made a real choice about how much effort they were willing to give, and others made a completely different one. Fans even started comparing notes online, with some saying almost every appearance ran 30 minutes late, except for one player who showed up right on schedule every single time. And that one player, of course, is Caitlyn Clark. Because her weekend looked nothing like the complaints flooding social media, fans caught her giving away her own shoes to a lucky supporter after a game. And this wasn't even a one-time thing. She'd already done the exact same thing back in April after a preseason win. Then during All-Star Weekend, she took it even further, telling fans they could hunt down hidden pairs of her unreleased sneakers scattered around the host city, turning a simple gift into a full-blown scavenger hunt built just for her fan base. Stop and think about what that actually takes behind the scenes. Someone on her team had to plan that in advance, work directly with her shoe sponsor, pick out drop locations across the city, and build a whole experience around the fans instead of just signing a stack of items for 15 minutes and jumping in a car. That's not the move of someone treating fans like a box to check between sponsor obligations. That's someone actually sitting down and thinking about how to make the weekend special for the people who spent real money to be there. She even joked about giving a pair to a teammate, laughing about how she only had one sample size left and ended up sharing it so two of them could match on the court. A small, funny moment that fans loved because it felt completely genuine, not staged for cameras. That contrast is exactly what set people off. It's one thing if a rookie or a bench player looks a little awkward around big crowds. They're still adjusting to a level of attention nobody really prepares you for. But it's a completely different story when some of the league's most famous, highest-paid stars are the ones getting dragged online for treating paying fans like an inconvenience, while the player facing the most media pressure in the entire league is also, by far, the one going out of her way to make people feel like they matter. Several players showed up to these paid appearances looking noticeably worn out, and not in the usual long grinding season kind of tired. Fans online started describing it as closer to hungover than exhausted, pointing to slow movements, barely any eye contact, and a flat energy that stood out badly against how upbeat these events are supposed to feel. And look, All-Star Weekend has built a reputation over the last couple years as one of the biggest party weekends on the entire calendar. Players fly into the host city and treat those Friday and Saturday nights like an unofficial league-wide celebration, complete with after-parties and sponsor mixers running past midnight. That part is totally normal. Athletes in every league on the planet do the same thing. The real problem shows up when that partying starts spilling into paid obligations the very next morning, right in front of fans and sponsors expecting a certain baseline of energy and getting nowhere close to it. One player even joked on camera the next morning about needing electrolyte water and admitted she didn't look great, laughing it off in front of a crowd that had shown up expecting their money's worth. So really, this whole story isn't about one rude interaction or one bad meet and greet that could be brushed off as a fluke. It's about a pattern that fans believe they're seeing, where a chunk of the league's biggest names treat fan interaction like a chore to survive, while the player under the most pressure and the most scrutiny keeps finding small, real ways to make her fans feel like their money was well spent. Even during a light-hearted sideline interview about the competitiveness of the actual All-Star game, one player pointed out that these games have never really been about physical intensity in any league. They're about bragging rights and keeping athletes safe so they can still compete when the real games matter. Fair point. But that still doesn't explain away the gap in effort fans were seeing off the court. There's also a money side to this that people kept bringing up in the comments, and it's worth taking seriously instead of brushing past it. A lot of these meet and greets and sponsor events aren't free. Fans save up specifically for this one weekend. So when someone pays for an experience that promises real face time with a player and instead gets a rushed few seconds, or gets told photos aren't happening after all, that's not just a minor letdown. That's a mismatch between what was promised and what actually got delivered. And fans have every right to feel shortchanged after saving up for something they didn't fully get. Now, to be fair, some players and league voices pushed back before the criticism even fully spread, framing the whole weekend as a celebration that shouldn't be picked apart for negative storylines every time a camera happens to be rolling. And there's some truth in that. All-Star Weekend is supposed to be lighter than the grind of the regular season, and turning every forgettable moment into a manufactured scandal isn't fair to anyone, players included. They're people too, and constant scrutiny over every gesture and every 10-second clip taken out of context can wear anyone down, basketball or not. But that defense only stretches so far when the complaints aren't really about the idea of players having fun. They're about specific moments where fans who spent real money on tickets, hotels, and flights just to be in that city walked away feeling like an afterthought to the very people they traveled to see. What fans are actually asking for is small. A few extra minutes in a line of people hoping for 30 seconds of real attention. Showing up to a scheduled, paid appearance with something close to full energy instead of visibly running on fumes from the night before, in front of people who didn't get invited to whatever kept them out late. And that's exactly why Caitlyn Clark's weekend stood out the way it did. Not because she did anything superhuman or reinvented what fan connection is supposed to look like, but because she did the basic, ordinary things fans have quietly started feeling like they can't count on from a lot of players anymore. She gave away shoes more than once without making a huge show of it every time. She built a scavenger hunt around her own gear just to give fans something extra to chase and get excited about. That takes real planning, not a 5-minute afterthought. None of it required a giant budget or a whole marketing team working overtime. It just required actually caring, consistently, on a weekend built specifically around proving that you do. So when people say the league has a fan connection problem right now, this is the exact weekend they keep pointing back to. Not because every single player dropped the ball, plenty quietly did their part with zero drama attached to their name, but because enough of them did fail, loudly enough and visibly enough, in front of enough cameras and disappointed fans, that the gap between how Clark treated her supporters and how some of her peers treated theirs became impossible to look away from. And that kind of reputation doesn't just fade once the weekend ends. It follows a player around for a long time after, whether that's next year's All-Star weekend or just a random Tuesday night meet and greet outside an arena. So here's the real question for you watching this right now. Do you think this is a one-weekend problem? Or is this the start of a bigger shift in how fans expect to be treated by the players they support? Drop your take in the comments. Hit like if you think fans deserve better, and subscribe so you don't miss the next update on this story as it keeps unfolding.